We've lost a member of our family here. She was the best friend, and it's going to take a long time to get over it.
It's a case that has a lot of people scratching their heads. 3 days after the victim's body was recovered, she's yet to be identified. Today, a post-mortem was carried out on the victim, who was found floating in front of the sea cave near the blowhole at Snapper Point with stab wounds to her neck. The homicide squad have closed the headland to the public today. They're still combing over the area. It says identifying this woman is a significant priority. From there, the investigation could go anywhere. Detectives believe she was killed within the 48 hours before she was found, and that the killer may have intimate knowledge of Snapper Point. The victim's been described as Asian in appearance, between the age of 20 and 35 and around 170 centimetres tall. Detectives are now appealing to the public for any information about activity here at the blowhole over the long weekend, and they're also keen to have a chat with anyone who may have concerns about a person that matches the woman's description.
Coal has long been part of the fabric of the Hunter, but the latest numbers from the federal government's National Pollutant Inventory show coarse particle pollution in the region is getting worse, up by as much as 70% at Newcastle Harbour.
The PM10, which is the more coarse particles, have risen 69% over the last 12 months.
The report shows a majority of the city's PM10 or particulate matter emissions emanate from Newcastle's coal terminals.
PM10 and the smaller particles, PM2, are strongly associated with cardiovascular disease, stroke, cancers.
The findings also point the finger at Hunter coal mines, some of which are listed in the top 20 air polluters in the country. The Department of Environment's report is purely observational, compiling raw emissions data from around the country. But advocacy group Doctors for the Environment Australia says it's time for the government to stop watching and start acting.
The rhetoric is that they are going to make these changes, but in fact we're seeing the opposite.
The New South Wales EPA is due to hand down the findings of 2 major studies into air quality in the Lower Hunter tomorrow. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Walking their way to a cure for brain cancer and for a mate.
The Mark Hughes Foundation, fighting those that are fighting brain cancer and helping those that are in that battle at the moment.
Paul Harrigan and Billy Peden are readying themselves for a challenge, a fundraising trek through the jungle of Papua New Guinea.
We're going to the north side of Kokoda, starting at Boona where the Japanese landed in World War II. We're riding our bikes along the track there to the village of Kokoda. From there we pack our bikes into an aeroplane, we walk the track, and at the other end of the track on Owens Corner we get our bikes back and we ride all the way down the plateau to Port Moresby.
It'll take 10 days starting on the 6th of June.
We're doing it in a fairly compressed time frame. It's going to be fairly challenging, but that's the way we wanted it because we want to push ourselves for our mate.
Making the Kokoda coast to coast even more memorable will be the fact that Mark Hughes himself will be undertaking the gruelling 284-kilometre trek, set to be a challenge both physically and mentally.
If one of my mates needs some help, I'll do whatever I can to help him out.
The good news, there's still a few spots left. If you'd like to join the team or just donate, head to the Mark Hughes Foundation website and follow the Everyday Heroes link. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Forget pitter-patter.
Ready, set, go!
This is a stampede of little feet. What looks like a fun game is really much more. It's underlying intention to get these tiny legs moving, and with good reason. According to the latest national statistics, a quarter of Australian children are overweight or obese. But here, in the small Hunter Valley town of Paterson, even the youngest of future athletes are being encouraged to turn that trend around. Good job. Danny Shearman runs Valley Fitness for Kids, something she started after struggling to find a sporting avenue for her daughter Sophie, who has autism.
So we started soccer and it went terribly. She wasn't finding that she could pay attention and she couldn't keep up with the other kids, and then she was getting upset from it and things. So when I first started doing the classes, I made them for just special needs kids to come along, and then if they wanted to join in, they could. If they didn't, they didn't have to. I had lots of sensory equipment there ready to go for them, and tents and all sorts of stuff. So they needed to go hide away, they could, and then they could just come back and play whenever they were ready. And just, something so that the mums didn't feel that there was pressure that the kids had to participate, that they had to be doing something, and that they're not on the sidelines worrying about what they're doing.
Now, due to growing demand, classes are open to all children, instilling qualities like teamwork.
Ready? That's okay.
Go. I like coming here because it's fun and you get to do fitness and it's really, really fun.
Do you like having fun with your friends?
Yeah.
And perseverance.
Oh, I can't do that.
Have a try.
Is it hard sometimes?
Yeah, when we were doing the hovers.
Why is it important to do though?
To keep you healthy.
Kids aged between 5 and 17 at the moment should be getting 60 minutes a day at the very least. 2 to 3 hours is considered good exercise, so it's every single day. So it's just something to try and remind them that it's not hard, it's not hard work to come and do, and you can make it fun. They'll notice when we play games that they get a little bit quicker week to week sort of thing, and just the confidence that comes from that.
At a time where electronic devices are drawing in children more and more, it's initiatives like these that are teaching them the benefits of being outdoors.
It's really fun exercise.
Can you show us your muscles? They're growing, aren't they?
Mhm.
And how strong are you?
Really strong. I don't think I should have come here because I do a lot of push-ups at home.
Confidence is probably the biggest thing, and just even if it's something as simple as a push-up, then they can't do it on the first week, and then they start practicing and then they can do it.
At 13, Alex Roberts is already noticing the rewards of living an active lifestyle.
He loves socialising with all his friends now, and he gets out instead of just being sitting at home. He has focused heaps in his schoolwork, and it's improved it 100% since a year ago.
Usually I'll just sit at home doing nothing, but since I've been getting out, I've been confident at school, I've been confident doing my work and everything.
While others aren't quite old enough yet to understand. Why is it important to be outside and be keeping fit?
Because I want to fight.
Who do you want to fight?
Probably my brother.
Regardless, it's all about taking that first important step and getting out there and giving it a go. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
There was always going to be an element of risk for Jason Hoffman when he decided to return to Newcastle. He had a year remaining on his contract with A-League heavyweights Melbourne City, while the Jets were wooden spooners under the control of the FFA.
People could have seen it as a risk, but after the first initial conversation I had with Scott Miller, and obviously knowing JP as well, I was extremely excited and I didn't see it as a risk at all.
But now it appears he's reaping the rewards. At 27, Hoffman is hitting his peak and will remain an integral part of Newcastle's defence alongside fellow local product Nigel Bogard.
It gives me a chance to not only, continually be a part of the growth of Newcastle into the future, but also it gives me a chance personally to settle down with my wife and enjoy, married life.
The Jets have continued to train during the finals. Many players have left, some are still on the way out. It's expected high-end recruitment decisions won't be made until a new owner is confirmed.
The ownership, we trust as players that it will get sorted, and I hope it does soon. But in saying that, as a player, your job's to play.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Even by Nathan Brown's admission, Peter Matautia's return to Newcastle had provided a boost to the squad. But a serious knee injury in his first game back has put his season on hold.
Yeah, he's obviously pretty gutted. Yeah, it's a bit unlucky, but it's footy and stuff like that happens. He's just got to bounce back harder.
His brother Sione's efforts in defence were one positive in a losing side.
Yeah, it's something I've been working on pretty hard in the pre-season. Sort of in the past I've been found out a couple of times, and sort of one of my attributes is want to be a real strong defensive player. And once I get that part started, then I would focus on the attacking part.
The Knights also lost a devastated Jared Mullen to a torn hamstring, but his teammates refused to use injuries as an excuse.
The things we could control, we didn't end up controlling them, and that's what let us down.
Nathan Brown has selected Will Pearsall to replace Mullen for the clash with the Roosters, but the coach has several options.
Obviously we've got two young halves in Jack Cogger and Rock Lamb. They're very talented kids that have been coming through the system, that have trained with the club. Will Pearsall's played a bit of footy for us this year, so there's a few options there. Jalen Feeney can play 6.
Sam Mataora has copped a dangerous contact charge for this hit. He'll miss 1 game with an early guilty plea, 2 if he fights the charge and loses. Fellow forward Paulie returns to active duty from his 1-game suspension.
The accident here on Hillsborough Road at Warners Bay happened during the busy peak hour period just before 5 o'clock. The 15-year-old girl was attempting to cross 4 lanes of traffic. She'd made it across 2 lanes before she was struck by a car travelling in the westbound lanes.
At that point, lane 2 was stationary, congested, lane 1 was free-flowing. She moved onto the roadway and into the path of a passing motorist who collided heavily with a pedestrian.
The driver of the Ford Laser, a 22-year-old woman, she stopped and several other drivers and passers-by came to the injured girl's aid. Paramedics arrived soon after. They treated her here at the scene before taking her to the John Hunter Hospital in a critical condition.
She sustained significant head injuries, significant broken bones.
The car involved has been taken away to be inspected by forensics officers as part of their investigation. Police are urging both drivers and pedestrians to be aware and alert around traffic.
Take care, consider where you are on the roadway, looking ahead and really concentrating, because if you place yourself in a position of danger, there's sometimes little chance of avoiding it.
Anyone who witnessed the accident here at Warners Bay yesterday is urged to contact police.
It's absolutely exhilarating.
The Aussie Matt Hall be the fastest so far.
But a chance to host a round of the spectacular air race series has been shot down for Lake Macquarie.
We weren't able to put a business case that stacked up to Destination New South Wales' return on investment.
The deal was reportedly done with Red Bull, but it was contingent on millions of dollars of investment from the state government. It had the backing of hometown superstar Matt Hall.
The only issue is on the Australian side is getting funding, so that is disappointing for me.
While Shadow Minister for the Hunter, Kate Washington, today had the Baird government in her sights, saying it's happy to throw money at stadiums in Sydney while the Hunter and regional areas miss out. But Destination New South Wales says the investment didn't provide anywhere near the level of return of other events.
I believe the business case was good. I can see where Destination New South Wales are coming from in that they do look at the visitor economy, whereas the economic impact is obviously far greater than just the visitor economy.
This knockback, though, doesn't mean that the Lake Macquarie round is in the scrap heap. Council says it will continue to pursue funding down the track.
This is not the end. We will keep trying to get a round of the Rebel Air Race here in the Hunter, be it 2018, 19, 20, we won't give up.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
Mangroves are a key part of any healthy estuary, but in the national park at Ash Island between Mayfield and Hexham, there's too much of a good thing.
In this case, what has happened is mangroves have invaded certain mudflat areas, and these mudflat areas are critically important for migratory wader birds.
The tiny rock stars of the bird world fly 15,000 kilometres to Newcastle from Siberia and Alaska each year and use the salt marshes and mudflats to recuperate and feed up for the trip home. But their feeding grounds are shrinking.
Mangroves are not shorebird habitats, so the shorebirds, including some critically endangered species that come here, are actually finding when they return from their breeding grounds that their habitat is fast disappearing.
As a trade-off for building its Kooragang rail flyover through the wetland, Newcastle Coal Infrastructure Group is spending big money to help restore the balance by removing 18 hectares of mangroves to protect the salt marsh. Volunteers are also plucking the little trees one by one, and some physical barriers will be installed to prevent the mangrove seeds from returning.
There will be a different number of screens that are set up, but the screens really want to make sure that they hit the mangrove seeds and not the actual fish coming in and out.
The project will go on for decades to ensure these little tourists keep coming.
So today's rally is an opportunity for the people of Newcastle to come together.
There were a number of calls that didn't go the Knights' way against Manly, and by all rights, Nathan Brown could have spat the dummy.
I haven't got Uncle Nick's support, I suppose, from the pocket point of view, so I can't be getting involved in that type of stuff. I don't think General will foot my bills. I haven't got the spare money to be contributing to that fund. I don't think my wife and children will be very happy, so I best not get involved in too much of this. I'll let the other people that can afford to do it.
Jared Mullen limped into Knights headquarters today. He'll see a hamstring specialist in Sydney on Friday to determine the extent of his injury.
Until he actually goes over it properly, we won't know definitely, but he definitely won't be back in the short term, that's for sure.
Will Pearsall has been named in the number 6 jersey, but spent the majority of today's session training with Danny Badiris. he's been groomed as a utility and could miss out altogether this week, with Brock Lamb also under consideration for the vacant 5'8" role.
Lammy's in around the money there too, so we'll make a decision on that later in the week. But Will's already played one game, and whilst it was in the forwards, he's definitely physically capable at the moment.
Sam Mataora will miss Saturday's clash through suspension. The club has decided to take the early guilty plea for his dangerous contact charge.
We'll plead it out, unfortunately. Look, we've looked at a lot of grade 2s, and there was a grade 2 earlier in the year which was fairly similar, and all the legal advice was, you're best off pleading it out.
Mickey Payer and Jack Stockwell now come into contention for selection. Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Back home, following the second round of the Air Race Championship, Hall is still feeling the pain of an injury he suffered in practice in Spielberg.
It happened on Friday in my first high G turn in the track on Friday, and I felt it go straight away, a lot of pain. We then spent every moment out of the plane getting worked on.
Making matters worse, he was forced to compete in snow for the first time in his career during the round of 8.
It doesn't actually affect the handling of the aircraft. It's more of just a psychological thing that you can see the snow coming past you while you're flying. A bit of the Star Wars effect type of thing. So it was different for me. All the Europeans, they were like, it's just snow.
Despite now sitting in 8th overall, the 2015 runner-up believes he had the speed to win the opening 2 rounds. With 5 weeks until the next event in Japan, the former fighter pilot will be spending plenty of time with his chiropractor and physio.
We're looking at a whole range of issues of, first of all, why it happened. Is it strength? Is it posture? Is it something in the aircraft? And then we can both recover me physically now, but also avoid it happening again, hopefully.
Prioritise our services. They're washing the hands of disability services. They will not be providing disability services after 2018.
Communication. In any relationship, particularly that of a parent and child, it plays a key role in navigating through the difficulties of life. But as a parent, you're not expected to have all the answers. That's where Connect steps in. Today, the Family Mental Health Support Service was launched at Birraban Public School in Toronto. It's aimed to put parents in touch with the appropriate assistance while also providing follow-up care through home or school visits.
With access to the internet, access to a whole variety of different information, it's making it very confusing for young people. And it's also confusing for parents as to how they need to respond.
According to Interrelate, the organisation behind the service, 1 in every 4 children is at risk of developing mental health issues, making early intervention all the more important.
If a parent or an adult who's responsible for a child is noticing behaviours or reactions that are not normal for that child, that are unfamiliar to them, that they seek help early.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
The central business district of Maitland, and of course this historic hall that was built in 1890 is now rejuvenated.
They are not just a charity that helps kids, they are a charity that changes people's lives.
I think it's a bit of a lost art for wingers these days. There hasn't been a winger who consistently contests a high crossfield kick since Israel Folau, so it's something that I'm trying to bring into my game because players need to evolve.
Just gives me that extra string to my bow to be able to do that. So yeah, it's only going to benefit me now and in the long run as well to be able to play two positions or more.
He won a vase for finishing third in Boston and a silver platter for grabbing second in London. But Kurt Fearnley knows he could so easily be showing off the winner's trophy for both marathons. Those prizes went to Switzerland's Marcel Hug.
At the end of the day, if a guy is able to get through 42 kilometres at the same speed as you and then is able to go a kilometre an hour faster, you can't beat that through choice. You need to beat that through hard work over an extended period of time.
With 5 months until the Rio Paralympics, Fearnley says he and his coach Andrew Dawes have work to do.
I'm happy with my strength, I'm happy with my endurance. I'll still need to work on that, I still need to improve it because everybody else will over the next 5 months as well.
Increasing his overall race speed will be the major goal.
It could only be gaining half a kilometre an hour over a 200 metres, but that's what's required, so that means there will be a lot more speed-specific stuff.
The 35-year-old will take part in a handful of shorter distance races between now and September to warm up for other events in Rio. But it's clear which gold he truly wants to win in Brazil.
Since I first won the Paralympics in Athens in the marathon, I got so much enjoyment out of that race that I knew that that was the one I wanted from then on, and that hasn't changed.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Leading 1-0 after 10 minutes, Broadmeadow was 2 goals to the good as James Virgili's deflected shot fell to Peter Haynes. The Jaffers had a handful of chances to get back in it before the break, but John Majerowski and Alex Palozzi couldn't find the target. The second half started with an audacious attempt by Lambton substitute Jamie Burns. Brad Swancott defied his veteran status to deny Michael Finlayson at the other end. Another chance went begging when Luke Remington fired wide. But the visitors finally had a lifeline as Joel Wood's shot was hammered home by Burns. The rest of the game was littered with chances. Wood was stopped by Nicholas Hartnett before Swancott produced another impressive save to keep out Fajovic. Lambton had one final foray into the box but couldn't salvage a point. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
He lives and trains on the Gold Coast, but Tom Fraser-Holmes will always call Newcastle home. Back for a brief visit before his preparation for Rio really heats up.
It's good to come back and it's good to unwind as well, and it's I feel like coming back down to Newcastle I can really just relax and sort of be in my element again and just really just cruise under the radar. And starting Monday is our first official week of really hard training.
He made his Olympic debut in London. 4 years on, Fraser-Holmes is bigger, stronger, wiser and considered a strong medal chance in Rio.
You know, I won't shy away from the fact that that's what I'm going there to do, is to swim PBs and to swim for medals.
Off the back of his recent success, Fraser-Holmes has teamed up with renowned breath enhancement coach Nam Baldwin, who has worked with the likes of Mick Fanning. His unique methods are designed to control an athlete's stress levels when they're outside their comfort zone.
I believe the Olympics is more about a mental game than a physical game, and if I can get those little 1 or 2%ers right and have those people in my corner to really enhance my performance both from a mental aspect and a physical aspect, it's only going to benefit me.
Less than 100 days out, the mental edge could prove the difference.
That's what the sport's all about, is about being comfortable in the uncomfortable, and the more you can be in that zone, the better off you will be when it comes to those real pressure cooker moments.
Just 15 years old with the world at her feet, Lake Macquarie now mourning the loss of high school student Jade Frith, the community putting their caps out for a talented swimmer and now a dearly missed daughter and friend. She was critically injured late Tuesday afternoon when she was hit by a passing car. Crossing the road at Hillsborough Road at Warners Bay, she was on her way to swimming training. Yesterday, her life support was turned off at John Hunter Hospital. Today, tributes at a makeshift memorial at the scene of the accident.
To see the loss of a young girl with so much talent, someone who I've met in the last few years, is an absolute tragedy.
Less than 24 hours after the teenager's death, the Charlestown MP and concerned resident Nicole Anthony are now calling for action to make the busy road safer for pedestrians. The road is a traffic hotspot. They say a set of lights could save lives. In a statement, the Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunters, Scott MacDonald, said the government is considering widening and providing additional lanes along Hillsborough Road, traffic lights at Chadwick Street and Crockett Street, and upgrades to the Warners Bay and inner city bypass roundabouts.
This is not at all about politicisation. This is about bringing to the attention of this government that it's time for work to be done on Hillsborough Road before there are any further losses of lives.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
Quite often smoke can overcome people when they're sleeping and they never regain consciousness, So it is lucky that the police were able to get here at about the same time as the fire and able to enter that other unit and retrieve that man who was asleep.
So make sure that those services that are here in the Hunter in New England can actually deliver 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for those young people who are homeless or exposed to the risk of homelessness.
Last year's flash floods saw the first cancellation in the event's 33-year history. But it was a different story today at the opening of this year's Tokal Field Days, with the country sun attracting crowds in record numbers. Preparing for future flooding was the key focus of the Hunter Local Land Service exhibition, providing information sessions on how to be flood ready.
We've got a kit that we've developed, and it's all about being prepared for a flood so as you don't get into that situation where livestock or people's lives are put at risk.
The event aims to keep farmers up to date with the latest agricultural developments, with experts on site answering community questions. It's not all about the advice though. There is something for everyone.
People think that if they didn't need to buy a tractor, they wouldn't need to come to a field day. But as you can see, there's so many other things here just for a great family fun day out.
Visitors were treated to some returning favourites, like the animal nursery and the piglet races. Well, sort of. Some lucky enough to get a personal meet and greet with Hamish the famous llama. Samantha Long, NBN News.
Round 9 of the NRL season, and Nathan Brown is set to blood his 9th rookie. Trent Hodkinson breaking the news about his new halves partner.
We've trained out there this morning and Brock Lamb's filled in at 5'8" there, so he's going to get his opportunity this weekend, which is exciting for him and his family. He's been playing some good footy down in the 20s.
Brock Lamb is a Maitland junior who comes with big raps, but Trent Hodkinson admits he doesn't quite know what to expect from the teenager, who many confuse with former Knight Stephen Crowe. The skipper will have the added responsibility of guiding him through tomorrow's match.
Having that experience, and I'll try and help him out where I can, and it'll put a bit more responsibility on my shoulders, which I enjoy.
The former Australian schoolboy will line up opposite Mitchell Pearce, who returns from suspension. Hodkinson is good mates with Pearce and expects the Blue Six will be more than prepared.
I think he'll be ready to go. He's had plenty of time now to obviously get himself right, and as I said, I'm good mates with him, and I know he'll be raring to go.
Jeremy Smith got through today's captain's run despite a niggling injury and will take his place in the side. Earlier this week, these two clubs were suspended from taking part in Premier Rugby. Today, they were reinstated.
Both clubs, yesterday afternoon and early yesterday evening, lodged appeals with the NHRU over our decision, and in relation to procedural fairness and natural justice, the board felt that it should go to the judiciary for hearing.
Almost all Premier clubs have been guilty of fielding unregistered players at some point this season. However, last week the NHRU sent out one final warning.
An unregistered player not only affects his insurance, meaning that he's not insured, he also affects all his teammates, the opposition team, the referee, the match officials and the volunteers for that match. That is quite a number.
Maitland and Merriweather were found to be in breach. As a result, they were fined, docked points and suspended from this weekend's matches. The clubs in question claim it was an honest mistake, an administrative error.
To be registered and insured, you actually have to be entered into Rugby Link. The whole system has changed over the last couple of years, paper-based system into an electronic system.
This morning, the story reached Sydney radio host Alan Jones.
Now, I'm told these were just administrative glitches which would occur in an amateur outfit. I mean, how stupid are we?
Merriweather coach Stacey Sykes responded to today's news, saying his club is looking forward to presenting the facts at the judiciary. He added that local teams need to play every week in order to attract players. Maitland President Ben Emmett says he welcomes the investigation into issues of player registration with Rugby Link.
Look, I think a lot of people really do understand the parking issues in town, and they've been coming up with good ideas about where we can look at parking in other locations.
The roar of over 200 motorcycles, a sound that's hard to drown out. The engines growling as loud as their rider's message, a cause close to their hearts.
It takes every individual, even if they put in $2 for a donation, if everyone in the state, everyone in Australia can do it, imagine what you can do. Unified, we make a difference.
For Michael Wheatley, organising the first dementia ride has not been an easy task.
Mother and grandmother, 10 years of mum watching her go downhill and friends of mine going downhill at the same time, so we've got to do something about it.
The club blown away by how much support it's received, raising over $30,000 in its inaugural year.
And you can see if you look around here, all these people, they're all behind it, the community. It's amazing. I'm a bit speechless, so yeah.
The number of Hunter residents affected by dementia is growing. All today's proceeds going directly to Alzheimer's Australia for research.
Currently there's about 8,500 affected with dementia, and that's set to rise to about 32,000 by 2050.
And while they might look tough on the outside, these bikers have let their guard down, all passionate about finding a cure for the debilitating disease.
It's just a whole new world, and unless you live it, you don't understand what's happening.
Samantha Long, NBN News. It's the Hunter Cafe that's made a name for itself on the national stage.
It's just perfect. Quality food, quality service, always delicious.
You can't beat the presentation. It always comes out and it's exciting. I mean, it's a feast in front of your eyes every time, really. They put in so much effort.
Despite recently being named Most Outstanding New Business of the Year, it's still business as usual at Table 1 Espresso. A typical Saturday morning with no seats to spare.
The national award was basically just the icing on the cake. It still hasn't really sunk in that we're being voted the best new business in Australia, but hopefully during the week it will.
The cafe, known for its mouth-watering pictures, shared daily on social media.
We're known and we're famous for our waffles and our pancakes and our delectable smoothies.
While an expansion is on the horizon, with the Table 1 team currently scouting new locations, for now it's just enjoying the journey.
I think it's about doing what you believe in, doing what you love, and if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
When I started in 1980, we used our own boats, paid for our own fuel, paid for our own uniforms. Fortunately today we are now one big organisation which combined a few groups.
The first home match of the year for the Greens, and they were out to prove they've got a legitimate roster. In open space, Jay Strawn found Sam Roos for the first 5 points of the game. It didn't take long for the competition leaders to hit back, Hamilton muscling over a short time later to level things at 7-all. The Hawks building momentum off Merryweather's mistakes, another strong display by the Hamilton forward pack, and its lead stretched out to 5. The second half began like the first. Merryweather again first to score, Strawn delivering a gift to Roos. Some huge Hawks defence, and with the sun out, Jason Keelan took scores to 15-12. The Greens quickly evened things up, but their ill discipline let them down, despite pleading innocent, Wendell Wilhelmus seeing red for a swinging arm. And a yellow moments later had them down to 13 men. And after sustained pressure on the home side's line, the Hawks sealed the win with a penalty 5 minutes before full time. Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
It's known as the May Day Parade. And today's Hunter Workers Union march through Hamilton was certainly no rally cry for help.
To celebrate that we've been here for over 55,000 days now.
A show of solidarity from almost 300 of the 70,000 union members in the Hunter marching for their rights.
And we're standing up for the one thing, and that is a better quality of life for workers in our region.
Also at the forefront of their minds, those who paved the way.
2016 marks 160 years since workers first won the right for an 8-hour day, shorter working week.
Established in 1878, the newly renamed Hunter Workers is the oldest regional trades labour council in Australia. The Hunter, the scene of countless battles. Hunter Workers says the union movement is as relevant today as it's ever been, and in 2016 there's still plenty to achieve for the region's workers.
At the moment they're facing battles with transport privatisation, disability privatisation, even issues for workers at Williamtown Airport with the contamination.
So expect to hear this. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
We need to be given all of the information. If the Assistant Minister has information that it's not harming people and not harmful to our environment, then why aren't we being told this? Why isn't the government sharing that information? Why isn't the government telling us more?
Existing customers will probably see very little impact in the short term. What they will see over the longer term is the development of the Greater to remain a progressive, modern, viable institution that provides a real challenger to the major institutions.
Bagpipes and budgie smugglers all part of an annual procession. Like fish out of water over the warmer months, the Merewether mackerels today return to the pool, diving into their winter swimming season.
We always think about swimming from like Mother's Day through to Father's Day. It's wonderful, it really is. It's wonderful to be back in the water. We always love it. The water's pretty warm at the moment.
Ice was added for effect today, but the club says water temps can dip below 13 degrees in winter, testing mackerels young and old.
Our oldest swimmer is our eldest member's 99. Our youngest swimmer's probably about 8 or 9, so it's not age-based. It's all just on a handicap, so it's all pretty fair.
Meanwhile, at Newcastle Beach, more than 400 people also put their endurance to the test in the annual surf and turf obstacle race. The drizzle-insured racegoers got wet, muddy, grassy and sandy.
Very slippery, very wet, and I think exactly what they wanted, a little bit muddy.
Participants ran, jumped and crawled through obstacles from King Edward Park to Newcastle Beach, with money raised going back into the Newcastle Surf Lifesaving Club.
This money helps us to maintain our equipment, such as first aid, oxygen equipment, buy new rescue boards.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.